No way. Welcome back. Hope you guys are all doing well. We'll get started at like 3 minutes after. If anybody had issues joining the Zoom, can you let me know? Like you had the wrong link or something? I think it was okay for everyone, but there was a bit of a scare on Discord about the wrong link or like two links, which is my worst nightmare. Also, I'm not doing any funny business with the recording this time. It's already recording, and then I'll just crop the start of the video. So it should be fine. Okay. We'll wait like another minute or so. We have a lot to get through today, and hopefully some demos, which will take a little longer. I'll say that right off the hop. If you are planning to demo, make sure to just have whatever you have open. I remember this week you're not expected to demo anything crazy. You just want to come on and say like, I learned this or I worked on this. Totally chill. If you want to come demo like a Hello World thing, that was like the goal. That would be super sweet. Demos can be anything. I've seen people working on like brain computer interface stuff. Doesn't have to be a website, but I expect a decent amount of web apps. Um, yeah, so just be ready to do that. It'll be like towards the end. And again, totally optional, but highly, highly encouraged. The whole point of this program is to like simulate a job. And on the job, you'll be demoing in front of a lot of people. Good practice. Okay, it's 5:03 now. I'm gonna pause the music. Okay, welcome back to Summer of Shipping. I'm gonna start sharing the slides. We're gonna have the same problem as last time. We have to let people into the room, but I think it should be okay. Collapse that. I'll try to keep the chat open too, but we'll see. I got a lot of stuff on my screen. Okay, can somebody in the chat confirm you guys can see my screen? Audio is good. Sweet. Okay, so welcome back, or maybe for the first time, hello. I'm gonna skip like the highlights because I'm gonna share your highlights from this past week, but and I'll skip the question. I was gonna do this slide while we were waiting, but whatever. 35:03. Let's keep moving along. Last week, we did welcomes for Summer of Shipping. We talked about the background. What is this Summer of Shipping thing? What is the philosophy? What are the plans for the summer? We dealt with a lot of onboarding stuff, and there was a lot Discord, Twitter, Zoom, Google Calendar, and it's been honestly a lot of the same of that kind of stuff this past week. And then hopefully a lot of y'all that are on the call did a lot of daily shipping. So the goal was to have some sort of like hello world application from the past week. And hopefully you tweeted about it every day. Even if you didn't, not a huge deal. It was just week one. But yeah. Just one first note from last week's content. If you missed it, if you're new, I am gonna re-record the kickoff session. I didn't have a chance to do it this week. It was a busy one, but I will make sure to get this week's recording right so I can get that up right away. Because we have some like real content this week, and I do not want to have to re-record that. It would be a huge pain in the butt. But yeah, for the week one stuff, the kickoff, the slides are available, and a re-recording is on the way. Okay, this week, what are we talking about? Well, first, I'm going to talk about some ships. I'm going to share what you guys built. There was some pretty cool stuff that I saw on Twitter. We're going to take care of some housekeeping. Then we're going to do this week's workshop, which is projecting about project management. So we're going to talk about like keys to making a successful software project. It's not like working on other kinds of projects, to be honest. There's a lot of like fancy terminology, ways of going about things that are unique to software. And these are things you see on like virtually every single software job these days. It's also a nice topic to start with because it's pretty light. It's not too technical. If you have no background, have never worked in engineering before, you'll learn a ton, and it's easy. As soon as you see it once, you'll know it forever. But it's also really crucial. To close out, we'll do some reminders, then hopefully some demos. So again, I'll say for the folks that just joined, if you want a demo, highly encouraged. It'll be towards the end. And then we'll also do some breakouts. So at the end, I'll give some time if people want to like pair up on projects or like aren't really sure what they're working on yet, or just want to meet some folks from Summer of Shipping. We'll have some downtime at the end for that. Should take hopefully about an hour, maybe an hour 15. That's what I have booked, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so you guys shipped some really cool stuff this week. I'm very proud. I mean, to start out with, Summer of Shipping, I mean, I mentioned last week we had a lot of people fill the survey. Since then, it's passed 400. So we had over 420 people fill out the initial survey, which is crazy. Over 180 fill out the follow-up intake form for a project. The Discord is over 250 people large. So those are pretty good numbers. I'm very happy, and Twitter kind of reflects that. It's been crazy active. So yeah, people working on all kinds of projects. I just thought I'd share a few highlights. If you see yourself, congrats, that's a good sign. So working with RAG, retrieval augmented generation, cool LLM stuff to like make it more grounded in reality. That's really cool. Preparing for Apple Test Flight, that's super sick. That's like a hell of a ship. I know that person, it's a previous project, but still really cool to see stuff maybe even hit the App Store. That's pretty awesome. Some fun one. If you didn't ship anything in a day, that's totally fine. I said this before, but the goal is to tweet every day. But I know you all have lives. You all can't write software every single day. It's very tough to do that. So it's fine if you just have to say, hey, didn't have a chance to work on much today. Maybe did some thinking about my project, but instead, here's a spoon. Totally chill. Something that's really important with practice in general is just trying to do it like every single day. And it's not about nailing it every day, not about spending 4 hours every day. It's just about, if you get only 5 minutes, if you only think about it, you can actually do some code. That's okay. But every single day you're striving for that. That's the goal. I had a little ship this week. I was able to get in a PR in making these like cool tweet graphics, like that collage. I found a project to take a tweet URL and turn it into a screenshot. And it didn't support x.com. It only supported twitter.com. So it was a pretty easy PR. Fun to get some code in myself and do some open source work. People working on ML stuff, collaborative filtering. I thought this was really cool on the bottom right. I'm working on some like Lucidchart stuff to like sketch out the architecture for an app. If y'all have not gotten too far in the development side of things and you're still in the planning phase, seems like a really fantastic tool to have a really clear picture of what you want to build, and would be super impressive for a future like recruiter or job application if in your README you don't just have like, here's how to run the app, these are the commands, but also like architecture diagram. Like that's pretty damn impressive. So yeah, some really good stuff on Twitter. I think a little bit more. Yeah, this is what I want to talk about. It's fine to not do something crazy every single day. It's fine to not tweet every day, even though I encourage you to. I tweeted this and it got a bit of traction, and I want to just repeat it for the whole group. Is consistency is not like being perfect every single day. It's just about getting a little bit every day, and if you can do more, that's great. You still want to do like a little bit. Like if you only do 5 minutes of, running your project, and I know it's tough with software because it takes a lot of time to context switch and get your app started and so on, but just a little bit every single day goes a really long way. don't worry about shipping some massive feature every single day. Because I think if you did that, you would lose your mind. And I do want you guys to take breaks and like enjoy your summer and so on. But remember to try to be like, again, somewhat consistent. Twitter is a good way to stay accountable to the rest of the Summer of Shipping team. Okay, some objectives about what the hell we're all doing in this program. There are two main goals. The first is to improve your resume. So our goal is to improve your paper resume. You know, we're all building projects, but then also your public resume. So that's kind of beyond a normal internship. You guys are hopefully active on Twitter, participating in our Discord on calls with other folks from Summer of Shipping. And building out that network is a big part of what our goal is this summer. And then also improve your skills. So that's what my job is here today, is to help you learn some stuff about project management. And we'll continue with that throughout the summer on different themes. I'll talk more about like syllabus related stuff for the summer soon. But yeah, the goal is to work on tangible skills alongside just improving your resume. Okay, a bunch of housekeeping items that I want to talk about. So I think the biggest one that a lot of you are probably wondering about is mentors. So it's a lie. I was supposed to send that email this morning, but I'm reaching out to all of them to match them with a bunch of projects. So I'm gonna actually go out of this for a second onto Discord. Okay, so on Discord, we have this channel ideas and people have been posting their projects, and I want everyone to do this because it's awesome. So basically what you can do in this like Discord forum channel is post like a title for your project. So I can show the like Summer of Shipping one. And then you can post some like details about your project and follow up. People can ask questions, participate, get involved, whatever. So if you're working on a project as a part of Summer of Shipping, A, you should already be on the Discord, hopefully. And B, post about it in this Discord channel. So that way people know what your project is, they can get involved. This is also how I'll do mentor matching, is I have your Google form submission. So I'll use that as well. But to get more detail, more context, this is like 11 out of 10. Like, look at all this detail. What problem are we solving? How does it work? What is the workload? Blah, 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 blah. This is 11 out of 10. Fantastic. And this was actually your guys' initiative. So shout out all of you who started participating in this. But I'm hoping to get the entire community on here. And that's what I'm going to use to do mentor matching. So if you have an idea on that channel, you will get a mentor eventually. I may have to serve as a placeholder for some amount of time because we have a good amount of mentors, but not a ton. But we have enough mentors for that initial set. And so, yeah, you'll get one, I would expect over the weekend sometime, you'll be able to get in touch. Please, if you haven't already, update your project information in that intake form. And so in the second email that you got, there was a form to submit details about what you want to work on this summer. Some of you weren't sure, which was fine. You just put like, I don't know yet. If that was you, go back to that link. And it's here on the slides. It's also on Discord and lots of other places. And you can go through the form again and then just fill in all your project details now that hopefully you know them after week one. And then coming up soon, probably sometime middle of this week, is there'll be summerofshipping.com/mentors. And there'll be a tab where you can see all of the mentors and try to get like coffee chats with them if they work in an area that's interesting to you. So I'll show you guys right now as well. There is summerofshipping.com, which has come a long way since we first kicked off this community. So some detail here, the sign up form, and then the Discord. So if your friends want to join, that's what you tell them to do. It has the current day. So if you're tweeting about Summer of Shipping and you're not sure what day it is, that's where it is. And then there's this team up tab, FAQ, events, all helpful if you're looking for like our calendar stuff, like our Zoom meetings, FAQ, that's all here. But what I really want to share is this projects tab. So this is just a view, like an embedded view of the Google Sheets with all of your projects. So if you want to pair up with somebody or like see what the community is working on, this is where to do it. Notice that some people, like I mentioned, have put like, I'm not sure what I'm working on. So if that's you, go update that. It'll just update this page automatically, which is pretty cool. And then I'm going to add a similar tab for the mentors, and that you'll be able to like scroll through and be able to reach out. I might have you reach out to me first before the mentors, just so that way I can make sure that nobody's getting like overwhelmed with requests. But you'll be able to, in some way, I'll make sure it's fair to everyone, reach out to the mentors and start to network a little bit more, which would be a lot of fun and add some more benefit from this community, which is cool. That's all the mentor stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we should be chill. That looks quiet. That's nice. Okay, next one, a reading group. So one person from the Summer of Shipping community started reading Designing Data Intensive Applications. There's now a Discord channel for this. So if you go to projects and then reading, designing data intensive applications, there's a lot of people chatting about, who's interested in reading this book. There's enough of us that I will organize a reading group. So if you're interested in like learning about distributed systems, system design, all that kind of stuff, I'll hopefully pick a time that works for you and you should come along. We'll try to keep it light. Every week we'll do like one chapter that we'll expect to read, and then we'll hop on a call and just talk about questions, ideas, how this relates to your projects, etc. I can't recommend this highly enough, especially if you're a little bit like older. So if you're like a third year, fourth year student, maybe you're a new grad, you'll get a lot of value out of this book. It's especially good for making the transition from like, okay, I'm working on an application just for myself on my machine versus I want to make something for like thousands, maybe millions of users, and I want to scale it up. If any of your projects hit that, that'd be nice, but it's not the most typical. But in interviews, you might get asked like, hey, pretend you wanted to redesign Twitter. Like, how would you do that? And this book will help you be able to answer those kinds of questions beyond just like your normal leak code kind of thing. So that's another opportunity. More on Discord, just so you're aware of that channel. If it's interesting to you, feel free to hop in that discussion. Time zones. So we have about 30 folks on the call. Last week, we had about 100. And I know the kickoff was there was a lot of like extra mentors and things on the call. But I know that a lot of folks for summer shipping are like halfway around the world. And so 5 p.m. In Pacific time is like 5 a.m. for them or even worse. So if that applies to you, go on Discord under the yapping, like general channel, and then under the time zones thread. And just let me know like what time zone you're in, what would be convenient for you. Or DM me is also fine. And then I think for next week, I'm going to set up 2 sessions. One, this 5 p.m. session will stick around. And then there'll also be one that I'll do at like maybe 7 a.m. Pacific, or, I'll think of a time that works where I'll just hop on a Zoom, let a few people demo, and then include that in the recording for the week. So that way you can, have your work be shown, because that's a big point of what we're doing here. And then I'll also replay the recording of the workshop portion. Okay, so that's time zone stuff. If that applies to you, make sure to let me know. Moderators, also am going to make a group chat of all the people that let me know if they can help with being a mod. And the big thing I want for Discord right now is a better onboarding flow. People that join, it's sort of overwhelming. There's like a bunch of channels. So I'd like for there to be like a multi-step, like first pick a role. Are you like a maker or a mentor? Then make sure you filled out this form and you've done this and so on. Here's where to post about your project. Here's where to find a mentor. So that'll come hopefully this week and we'll roll out. And we'll also help for folks that are sticking around, but maybe have missed 1 or 2 steps as a part of like the onboarding flow for Summer of Shipping. That should help you. Some loosies. Okay, so these were like things I was looking at last year's Summer of Shipping that were cool, and I wanted to bring up in case people wanted to either like say in the chat right now, like, hey, you should do that, or wanted to follow up with me after if they see the video. So the first one was support for beginners. A tough part of Summer of Shipping is it's very like you write software heavy, like you have to make a project. And what if this is like your first time programming? What if you're a first year student and you learned Racket like we do at UBC, and you can't really make a lot of stuff with that, like not projects that are very helpful for interviews? Well, if that's you, I'm more than happy to just provide you resources for now. In the 2020 Summer of Shipping, they had like a beginner onboarding flow where they had like a beginner track with certain resources and like a path for people who are new. I'm not sure how many folks that applies to this year. Just from like scrolling through the form responses, it seems like a lot of people have good experience. But if you're stuck, you're kind of overwhelmed, you feel like you're in tutorial hell, any of those things apply to you, reach out to me. If there's enough people, I'll put together a little group. If it's like case by case, I'll just work with you individually to get you sort of unstuck. Ideas, I think most people have ideas at this point, but I promised and will deliver on that Notion doc that has a bunch of loose ideas. The one I have has a bunch of like things that don't make sense without context, so I'm kind of like fleshing it out a little bit more. But if you're still strapped for ideas or you want to pivot to something new, expect in the next like couple of days, maybe tonight, Notion doc with like loose ideas that I've had, so you can work on. I want to encourage more facilitation within the Summer of Shipping community, of like just random chats and like people getting to know each other. The folks who are active on Twitter and Discord have done that, I think, already, which is great. But for some folks who are lurking, which I'll talk more about later, I want to get you unlurking. So one thing that's really cool that I've seen in Slack workspaces is something called Donut. which will randomly pair two people from the community every week. Like we'll randomly pair the whole community in pairs of two, I should say, and encourage you to have a one-on-one coffee. I'd like to set up something similar for our Discord. I haven't found a bot yet, but I'll keep looking. But yeah, just be aware that might get added. It'll be opt-in, so only if you want to. But I think it's a great way to get to meet some people who are in the same spot as you, alongside some mentors. And then last note is, so there's a Summer of Shipping LinkedIn group and an official Summer of Shipping Twitter. I finally have access to the Twitter, whoop. And as of today, I also have access to the LinkedIn group. So I already have your Twitters, Discords, LinkedIn's, all that. So I've added most folks to the Twitter list. It's already like at 160, 70 people, which is crazy. And I'm going to add you to the LinkedIn group. That's, again, another way to connect with folks and support each other in the job search, and beyond Summer of Shipping, looking into the future. So some cool stuff there. And on my side of things, still trying to improve the website. There's a lot of work I need to do, and the Discord. So if you want to help out with any of those initiatives, or kind of be like work on a meta ship and ship Summer of Shipping with me, see the ideas channel and then Summer of Shipping for like my thread. Okay, all in all, I just want to say, let's keep it fun. We're off to such a good start. I've been absolutely blown away, and I'm so proud of all the work that's happened already in the first week. So let's just keep the vibes going. Again, this isn't a job. Like, there's no reason to stress about anything. Keep it fun. And one thing I said before, and I'll say a lot of times, is the more you put into this, the more you'll get out of it. So I encourage you to like take initiative, find ways to like reach out to folks, support each other, and really take your project to like another level. Because that's when you get the most out of the summer, which is the whole goal. And again, within reason, right? Like, don't go too crazy. Still enjoy your time. If you have some time off, enjoy that. Maybe travel a bit. Don't feel the need to like pressure yourself into doing too much. But yeah, let's keep the good vibes going. Okay, so on to this week's topic. Let's see how we're doing for time. Sweet. Okay, so we're gonna talk about projecting. I'm gonna project about project management. That is this week's topic. Okay, so to start off with, let's reflect on what we just did this past week. This week in Ship, your task was Hello World. So really simple. What that means is, for whatever kind of application thing you're building, you want to get it to render, display, say Hello World, just those two words. So for a web app, this can mean on almost blank screen. For a mobile app, it can be like a single page. If you're making a command line tool, it could be just outputting that, printing Hello World to the console. And this comes from like the history of computer science. Hello World was from Brian Kerrigan, who's like an OG programmer. You can go read about him on his Wikipedia. And this is him sketching it out on paper for a C program, printing out Hello World. It's something programmers have done since like almost the dawn of time. And it's generally useful to see how easy it is to get to that stage, right? We want to get to Hello World as quickly as possible so that we're actually like seeing something from the code that we're writing, and make sure that you have like a baseline understanding of the software that you're working on. So Hello World is a great starting point, and I hope many of you were able to check that off this week. But that's why I had you do it. And it relates to this really important concept in project management known as scope. So scope is a term you'll hear a lot in computer science. It's like the view of what would be in a finished version of your project. So at an internship, you'll often be given tasks or projects with very clearly defined scope. This means you know exactly what it is to fix. Like, for example, it'll be like, let's make this button turn red. And it's like very clear, well-defined. Sometimes there'll be subtasks given to you as well under that are just like very well marked out. So you don't have to ask any questions. There's no ambiguity in what you're working on. And then as an intern, your job is to execute. You're told this a lot on the job. Your focus at higher levels of engineering is to deal with ambiguity, figure out the answers to some more abstract questions. But as an intern, it's just write the code to do the thing that we told you to do. It's very cut and dry. And in Summer of Shipping, we don't really have those same bounds. Unfortunately, I didn't scope out like 30 projects for you to all work on. I don't sit with you like day to day to help you work on scoping out tickets, or work for your project. Like, what is the next step exactly? So you might need some support. My advice, generally speaking, when it comes to scoping out work for your projects, is to cut. Something that always irks me at hackathons or on personal projects, people always include a bunch of stuff they don't really need. The classic one I wrote here at hackathons is people include authentication. when you're demoing to a judge at a hackathon, no one cares if you can like sign in and sign out. Like that is like if you just make them dummy buttons and it says hello Michael when you click the sign in button and you entered whatever for a password and it doesn't actually check, that's fine. Like you're just demoing at a hackathon, and none of that will actually affect the judging of your project. People want to see the unique features that you shipped. So this is a classic case of something you should cut from your scope, right? You don't need authentication to be able to ship a great project. I've seen some people talk on Twitter about what they want to build for the summer. And every time, my first thing will be is like, okay, what is the smallest thing you could do first to have the maximum impact? This is something I actually overheard at Notion somewhat recently, like this week. Somebody senior at the company was saying, when I'm deciding what to work on as an engineer, my goal is to always do the highest leverage thing possible. Right now, ship that and then move on to the next highest leverage thing. So do the same thing on your personal projects. Um, do what you can right now to have the most impact, to get the closest to something you're really happy with, and cut things you don't need, and really like cut things you don't need. This is a tweet from the chief data science of the White House when Obama was the president. So he's obviously pretty good at software engineering and computer science. And I'll just kind of like go through what he has in his notebook here. So the top, it's frames of time. He dreams in years, plans in months, evaluates in weeks, and ships daily. Ships daily sounds kind of familiar. Hopefully it makes sense why I'm asking you all to do that. But it's good to have vision, right? Like you want to have dreams. You want to work at Google. You want to work at a startup. You want to found a company. Those are all fantastic things. You want to have plans. You want to know in the next few months, I want to have shipped a project with summer of shipping and have that be deployed and have it on my resume and have that really polished and have met a few people from the summer, right? Week over week, you want to be reflecting on how your development is going. Am I making progress? Am I stuck? Am I in tutorial hell? Like what is going on a week by week basis? And then every single day, you should be making an effort to ship and iterate quickly. You don't want to be like writing code and then only deploying once a week or once a month, because then you're not getting feedback ever. You might run into like big bugs on the way and get down deep rabbit holes that aren't very productive. And then the next section. So we prototype for 1x, build for 10x, and engineer for 100x, right? If we're building something for a huge audience, that's the time to really engineer. But right now, I think a lot of us are at the 1x scale. Just prototype, just hack it together. Don't worry about shipping code that's like super polished and maintainable for like 100 years. Your systems aren't going to face a lot of load probably when they're just personal projects, and they might eventually, and you can come back to your decisions and re-engineer some of your work. But for now, build out the prototype, get it working quickly, and make decisions that are somewhat like hacky or like cut around corners. That's fine. It's actually good. So you can have your software out there and people can use it. Always ask yourself what's required to cut the timeline in half. So what, again, shortcuts can you take? What things can you do? What scope can you reduce to just cut the timeline in half? Say you're working on a personal website and you're saying, okay, I think I can maybe have it ready in 2 weeks. Ask yourself, okay, what features am I putting in my personal website that could cut it down to 1 week? So do I really need a footer? Like, no, who cares? That copyright button at the bottom of your website, like it's not that important. You know, it's nice to have, it's cool. It's in a lot of websites, but you don't need it. You do need like maybe your name on the website if it's a personal website. Maybe you want like a little section of like a bio. So those things you can keep in, but really be vicious and try to cut scope so you can have something up on the internet as soon as possible. And then at the very bottom, probably the most important question on this whole sheet of paper is what needs to be done to double the impact. So with your personal projects, think about, okay, what am I building? Why am I building it? Get to some of those like deeper questions, and then think about how you could maximize your impact. Think about what steps you could take to have a bigger effect once your personal project is off in the world. So for a website, like, is it more impactful if you're like, you have a little like resume section on there? Maybe a blog section you think would be really useful in the future. So you can share your writing and maybe write some technical pieces. Ask these questions as you're building your projects, because that will lead you down a much, much better path in the future. I encourage you, like, keep this screenshot or like print this out, write this down, keep it handy, because it's some really wicked advice. There's an article from a company called Basecamp. Basecamp is a software company that has a bunch of like smaller projects as a part of like their offering suite. They have a really like cut and dry approach to software development, some like really good practical advice. I stole a few things from a blog post, or not blog post, but like kind of guide they have online called Getting Real, and I'll just read them off on the right-hand side. So some things you should try to do when you're developing a web application, but really any kind of software project, is to be small, agile, and lean. So small teams, often beneficial. Being agile, so like agile is like, means moving fast, and that's great. Being lean, so being like thin, cutting scope, not using too many different like technologies, languages, packages, libraries, all that. Being lean, fantastic. Try to under promise and over deliver. So don't promise the world. Don't say I'm gonna build the next operating system. Say, okay, I'm gonna try to like build a little like, I don't know, file system thing. And then if I can extend and flesh it out and add a kernel and do all kinds of crazy things, maybe I can build a kind of like operating system, right? But start small as you can and then over deliver. Solve real problems. So when you're working on projects, don't like use cool tech just to use cool tech. That's a bad way of going about project management and projects in general, because you'll often end up with a solution in search of a problem. So I say this expression a lot. It's especially true with machine learning these days. A lot of people are just slapping AI on all kinds of projects because it's cool and it's like the thing that's in now. And prior to AI, it was Web3, and people were slapping decentralized protocols on top of all kinds of stuff um, because it was the thing to do. And a lot of these apps end up being a solution to some problem, but not one that people actually have. And so make sure with your projects that you're starting from a problem that maybe you have. That's always what I recommend first for a personal project, something that's like bothering you on a day-to-day basis, like something you would actually really use. And if not you, then make sure to validate it with like real users. And honestly, you guys have done a great job of this already. One of my favorite ones, I'll just shout it out. I hope they demo today, is the repo cleanup project. I think that's a very like clear-cut, real problem. There's a lot of spam issues that exist all over GitHub. So they're getting a data set. They're getting some folks together to do some like machine learning to mark off like what is spam, what is not spam, and then putting it in an engineering context and adding it to GitHub somehow, maybe with their API, maybe similar. That's cool. That's a real problem. People have that problem. And so try to do that when you're working on your projects. Set deadlines. Always have time-bound tasks when you work in software. If you don't set deadlines, you say, okay, like I'll work on my project. Whatever I get done this week, that's okay. And if I finish my project this summer, that's fine. Odds are you won't finish your project. So set deadlines, even for tasks, no matter how small. Just be like, okay, I want this done tomorrow or within the week or within the month. Have some timeline in mind. And then when you don't hit them, which is very typical in software, it's really hard to predict things. Just reflect and learn for the future so that way you get better at estimating going forward. And this last one, it's kind of mentioned in the post, but I'm stealing this mostly from Amazon, is Amazon has a concept known as two pizza teams. The idea is that a team of people working on a software project should be able to be fed by two pizzas, like two medium pizzas, I assume. And any more than that is too many people. And I really believe that's true. Smaller teams do way better. I think I have this on the next slide. Yeah, Brooks Law. Brooks Law is a software observation that adding manpower to a project makes it even later. Like to a late project makes it even later. And it's sort of counterintuitive. If you haven't worked in the industry before, you're like adding more people. Surely that makes my project ship faster. I can have more engineers who can write more code and get it done faster. But it's really often the case that having too many cooks in the kitchen, to use the expression, really slows down a software project. You want to keep teams small. And one way of thinking about that is what can be fed by two pizzas. That's I eat one pizza myself. Real. DHH mentioned. DHH is really smart. He's got some really hot takes, but he's got some really smart takes. So that's the guy who is the CTO, I want to say, of Basecamp, and he's pretty smart. So if you want to look up his stuff, again, with a grain of salt, everything that he says, because he says things really strongly and then changes his mind 10 years later, but it's fine. He's really smart. Okay, so yeah, keep your team small and apply all that other advice, and you'll write really good projects. It's really, I'll just say it again. I know I'm really repeating myself here, but I just want to make clear the scope thing because it's so easy to mess up when you're new. It's easy to like stress about things that never even get used. So just ship like simple small features. For example, say you're working on, I don't know, some sort of like website and you're stressing about security. For your personal projects, if your website gets hacked, I mean, as long as you're not collecting sensitive user data, like to be honest, who cares? You could just delete your server and make a new server and nothing would be bad, right? If you accidentally leak an API key, that's bad. It might cost you a bit of money, but life will go on. So don't like over stress about these like some like real problems that will exist for some software projects. But for your personal stuff, you have a lot of flexibility and you should exploit that. You should not care about the small details, and just ship. And then later on, when it becomes relevant, then deal with it. Don't like worry ahead of time. A good way of framing some of the work you can do is in what's called like a user story. User stories are a way of framing a feature or like bug you want to fix in the perspective of a user. So that way, you know, it's based in like a real world use case. You know that someone's like actually like, as a user, I want to X is a user story. It's about a user, and therefore it will impact real people using your application. So here's like a chain of thoughts you might have. I don't know what I want to make for my project this summer. I just want to make the world a better place. Okay, a bit too broad. You're probably going to end up with, I don't know, something that's not grounded in reality. So let's bring it down a little bit. Okay, like maybe I think climate change is bad, and so I want to build an app to deal with carpooling. Okay, that's better. Now I have some context to work with. Then immediately move to start framing it in like all the features you want to build from the perspective of a user, and run that by real people to see if it makes sense. So as a user, I want to be able to schedule an event and coordinate rides. That's good, right? Like it's something I could see myself doing in a carpooling application. A bit complex though, right? Like I want to narrow it down so I can cut my scope and have something that I can actually deliver on within not like 4 months, right? Because that might be complicated, but within like a week, say. So maybe I cut it down a little bit and I say, okay, let's just focus on the scheduling thing. So in my app, I want to schedule an event with a time and location. Good. And then again, just follow up like, okay, if I'm a user and I'm scheduling an event, do I really need to worry about like the CSS animations in my project? No. So try to cut all that extra fluff out and circle back to design and other things later, so that way you can get your thing into the hands of users and validate that you're building something people actually want. This is a good like acronym to keep in mind, YAGNI. You are, you aren't going to need it. You aren't going to need it. And it's really important to keep this in mind. You are often not going to need either feature, like you're doing something prematurely. There's also a common thing you'll hear people say in software development, which is premature optimization, like trying to make your code fast. First, get it working, then make it fast. That's like the 100% the way you have to go about things. So try not to be premature when you're doing software development. Wait until you need something, then develop it. And when you're choosing what to develop, pick the thing people will want the most. Amazon, one of their big values is frugality, and frugality like literally means like being cheap, like trying to save money, which is good when you're a company, so you can extend your burn rate or whatever. But it also kind of applied in engineering. People were very careful with their time, would say no to meetings if they thought it was a waste of their time, and be really careful about what features they picked to develop, or what projects they thought to work on. And that's a good idea. Just again, pick a limited feature set, be reasonable with your technology choices too. So for a lot of you, you're probably learning something new this summer. You're picking a language or technology that's sort of outside of your existing skill set, but be reasonable, right? If you're building a front end and a back end, maybe for the front end, pick something you already know, and then the back end, pick something new, or vice versa. Don't do your first ever personal project in Rust. You'll probably have a bad time. Okay, one thing I want to say is sort of like off of the scope topic, moving on a little bit here, is what do you have in a team for a software project? Like, who are the different roles? This is something you'll see in a company. You probably won't have this much structure on a personal project, but there's some terminology here that's helpful to be familiar with, and should hopefully serve you well in the future. So on a project, of course, you'll have engineers. Another term you'll hear often is ICs. That means an individual contributor, individual contributors. So if you're on this call, I'm assuming that's about 95% of you. You must be probably an engineer. You're looking to ship. And there's a mix of levels that you'll find with engineers. You'll have interns and new grads. So interns, people who are still in college, just on the summer, they're going to do an internship or something. New grads are people who are freshly out of college. And then beyond, you could have just like engineers, senior engineers, et cetera, et cetera. The expectations vary for interns and new grads. Like I mentioned, it's just about like shipping well-defined tasks. Whereas when you're a senior and above, you have to start to deal with some ambiguity. You have a rough understanding of what the users want, or you're given something that's just kind of more unclear. And it's your job to weave through that, ask questions, delegate tasks, so that way things get done on time. Beyond engineering, you'll have design, pretty self-explanatory. People who focus on user experience and the overall look and feel of your application. You'll have product managers. So these are people who are focused on connecting the like code, software engineering to the business needs. So they'll often sit in user interviews, or like meet with like higher level executives and oversee the engineering team to make sure things are on track and that the right features are being shipped in the right timeframes. Then you have engineering managers. These are more engineering focused managers, as the name kind of implies. So a lot of the EMs I've worked with will code. There are usually like pretty like really wicked engineers and can support all of the engineers on the team with like whatever issues they're having. But then also do some more like high level things, thinking about like scoping out projects for some of the other engineers on the team. And again, just connecting more with senior leadership to make sure that the team is aligned with the overall company. A lot of companies have Q&A, people who do manual testing, also very helpful. You can, at some companies, have a team of people who do DevOps, development and operations. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but development operations is the key. So this is things related to software that aren't developing new features. So it's like it's building the software, like what do we use to compile it, or testing the software, releasing the software. Are you deploying it on the cloud? That's often like a DevOps-y kind of thing to do. Maintaining software, so making sure like packages are up to date. You'll often hear this phrase CI/CD. It stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. Integration meaning running the tests and making sure that everything still like integrates. And then deployment means taking your software package and then getting it onto the cloud like automatically, continuously as releases are coming. This is all related to software. If you want to have a project that's successful, you need to do all of those things. But it's not exactly related to like the normal day-to-day of a software engineer where you're working on adding features. So it's kind of separated into its own role. And then above all these people, you'll have your C-suite VPs who you want to make sure are happy at the end of the day. So talking specifically about some like project management terminology and software, here are some major areas that I'll just highlight in the closing of today's Summer of Shipping. What a sprint is, and agile software development, task estimation, spikes, epics, tasks, and issues, some words I've used a few times in this presentation, and then divvying up work. How do you do that? Okay, so sprints are part of the agile methodology of software. In college, you will probably learn about agile at some point. It's like kind of boring, but you learn it out of a textbook. I'll just summarize what agile is here. Agile is about doing software development in chunks of time called sprints, which are 2 weeks. They start out with sprint planning. So you decide what you're going to do within that sprint cycle. Every day, you'll do stand-up, which is a daily check-in. At the end of the 2 weeks, you'll demo, and you'll do a retroactive to reflect on how the sprint went. And the reason it's agile is because you're moving fast. Like the old way of doing things, you would do software development over the course of like 4 months. And at the end of that 4 months, you would like release your software and see how it went. And the idea of agile is that every 2 weeks, we're doing little releases and shipping features all the time and always reflecting on how we're doing. So it's a much smarter way of doing things. Now, I want to say this is probably, you can maybe kind of tell, the inspiration for how Summer of Shipping is structured, right? Every day, I'm not asking you to hop on a Zoom call, but I am asking you to tweet. And that's kind of like your stand-up. Like every day you're saying, okay, this is what I worked on today. Here's what I'm stuck on or want to work on tomorrow. That's exactly what you do at stand-up on a job. And then demos, another major part of Sprint, and also another major part of Summer of Shipping. So even though this is like a fun, not real job program, you're doing a lot of job-like stuff. And so that's why I'm really encouraging you to participate in like the daily tweeting and like come on here and demo, because it's like great training for on-the-job stuff. Another big part of working in an agile team is estimating tasks. You'll have a lot of different work you want to do, and it's important to know what like fits within the 2 week time frame to be able to estimate how big a task or ticket is. This is notoriously hard. I'm like still too new to engineering to give you any good advice. But my best piece of advice is to track how well you're doing. So when you're given a ticket or you have a ticket for yourself, first guess, say, okay, I think changing the color of this button is only going to take me a day. And then when it takes you a week, just make sure that you like have a note of that somewhere, whether it's like mental or like you have like a Notion doc or like a notebook or something. Note that down. And then in the future, you can see like how far off or close you are. That's good. You should be reflecting on that often so that way you can get better at knowing how long a task will take. Spikes are a special kind of task to estimate another task. So say you like aren't really sure how to do something at all, and you can't even like make a half guess. You can take a task to estimate how long that other task will take you. So if you want to add like a map feature to your app and you don't even know like what libraries are out there, you've like never worked with map code before, you can take a Spike and go do some Googling, find out what exists. You can find other similar projects. You can even maybe create a proof of concept, like a mini version that doesn't have all the bells and whistles you want, but like kind of sketches out what would be possible. But spikes, you have to make sure to time box. So I'm only going to spend 4 hours on a spike, because otherwise, if your spike takes too long and then your estimation is bad, it just turtles all the way down. A bad way to do development. Epics are just a fancy word for like a big task that has lots of other tasks within it. So like introducing social features to my app is like an epic. That's like a big thing. And you can break that down into tasks like add follows, add reposts, add likes, add blah, 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 blah. And then you can break those down further into subtasks. The terms in software I use interchangeably: stories, tasks, issues, tickets, all mean the same thing. And then finally, dividing up the work. So if you're working in teams for summer of shipping, it's kind of tricky to like divide up what you're doing, especially if you're like editing the same files of code. So try to modularize your app. That means splitting up parts of your app into different like sections of code. So for example, not he front end, but the front end, you can separate from the back end. So you can have the client, the things that you can see when you're using the app, and the server, all the backend logic to handle like the data. Those you can separate into different like folders, say is typical, and then two developers can simultaneously work on both. In general, you can find ways to separate like the data part of your app or different pieces of the data and create different services around them. That's a little bit more advanced. But if you're working on like a really big project, you might want to talk about Google like microservices or breaking your app into different services. So that way people can divide up the work nicely between each other. Also, I would say if you're in summer shipping and you're in a team, you don't really need to divide up the work. You can just pair program. You can be like, oh, like you have some time later, you want to hop on a call and work on this feature together. It will go like about 100 times faster most of the time. You should do some initial work up front so you know like roughly what area of the code your feature needs to go in or like where your bug fix is. But pairing is an unreasonably effective technique. So I encourage you to try that more often than splitting it up. Tools, you will need tools to manage your software projects. And okay, I'm just going to say, yes, there's a Notion logo on the slide. Yes, I work at Notion. But I would have said this even a year ago, probably 2 years ago too. If you're really small, like you're just working by yourself, use GitHub, use GitHub issues, and GitHub also has a wiki if you want like extra documentation stuff. If you're working in a small team, use Notion. And it works super well for small teams. It's very like lean, it's flexible, it'll adapt to whatever you're doing. And it's more software aware than like Google Docs or something. So I can't recommend it enough. I didn't do this like on purpose, but there is one team, let me open my Notion, that is already using Notion really, really well. Perfect exemplar. I didn't tell them I'm going to show this, but hopefully it opens and then I can show. But it's a pretty wicked example of like what you can do with the software and like why it's such a useful thing. All right, it's going to be slow to load, but maybe I'll check the chat while this is happening. Okay, let me flick to not ASD, but here. Okay, so this is a project from Summer of Shipping called Repo Cleanup, and you can look at how nicely they set this all up. So they have a front end, back end, data set, documentation, development guidelines. This is all in Notion. They have a calendar for like their meetings. Like this is crazy that this is like a software tool and you can do this. They have like all their technology here, blah, 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 blah. So cool. Like just UI frames, I am so impressed. So that's what you can do. It's so wicked. Also, Notion can be intimidating at first, but there are templates that exist. So if you go and you Google like Notion templates, you can find ones for like projects and tasks. So really useful for a software context. Also like an issue tracker. So at the bottom here, you see an example of what's called a Kanban board, which is a fancy word for like a board where you move tasks along from their different categories. So on the left-hand side, you have like a task that's not started, and then you move it over to in progress when it's in progress, and then finally you drag it over to done when it's done. It's really helpful for organizing. You see like all the terms you just learned are here, like sprint board, sprint planning, all this stuff pre-built into Notion. It's just a template that you can use. So if you're in a team of like, I'd say like more than two, maybe even two, use Notion. If you're by yourself, I think GitHub issues are probably okay. But yeah, my 2 cents. I'm not biased, I swear. Also, I will mention, how much time do I have here? Okay, I want to go a little bit quicker just to wrap up. towards personal management. So a lot of these tools that you learn and even the techniques you can use in your own life. If you're generally more productive, you'll be a better engineer. And so here are some habits that I find useful during internships and real life. One is journaling. Every day when I'm on the job, I just write down like the various things that I'm doing or like to-dos that I need for the future. And I just have like a day-to-day log that I'm keeping track of. It's like met with my manager, worked on this issue, got stuck on this, talked to this person at lunch about like this cool thing, blah, blah, blah. Like just whatever I think would be relevant to future me, I write down in a daily journal. Super helpful. I also do this in my personal life. Super helpful. And then the next one is time blocking. So your calendar is a tool. A lot of times people can like intend to do something. Like I plan to work on this thing sometime today because I have a bunch of free time. Instead of just like having a bunch of like empty space in your calendar, I encourage you to like just put 2 hours. I'm going to work on this feature for my app and see how much you get done by actually specifically blocking out some time and being like, I'm going to work on it from here to here. It encourages you to take breaks at appropriate times because you can like actually see on your calendar how long you're working for. Gives you a better sense of like how well you're estimating how long features take. And also prevents people from like booking meetings with you because most modern calendar tools will say, oh, this person already has an event at this time, so you can't book a meeting with them. So like actually schedule things into your calendar can be super helpful. I love the book Atomic Habits. If you're like struggling with like just personal productivity, um, it's like the best read possible. And there's this quote in it that I think about a lot, which is you do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. So you can set some like crazy lofty goals. I'm gonna like get 8 hours of sleep every day, eat perfectly healthy, go to the gym 7 days a week, and make the best project that Summer Shipping's ever seen. But you probably won't hit that unless you have really wicked systems. So think about like what is your like day-to-day habits or your like plans for actually executing your plans for executing on those goals. And you'll probably fall to the level of your habits, like your systems. So make sure they're good. Things I use, in case you're curious, I use Notion a lot. I use the web clipper a lot for saving things I find interesting. Firefox, and it has this built-in thing called Pocket you can use for saving articles. I use Thunderbird for emails because it's open source, and I think that's cool. And then there's this really cool app on Android, if you use Android like me, called Beeper, where it will take all of the messages from the internet. So like your Instagram DMs, LinkedIn DMs, Twitter DMs, text messages, Facebook Messenger messages, and put it in like one interface. And I find that really useful for making sure that I text people back because I used to be bad at that. Getting stuff done. Notion Calendar, they have a calendar thing now. That's great for long-term planning. I use an app called Todoist for medium-term planning. Like in the next week, I know I need to do my laundry or something, so I'll put that in. And then my bullet journal I use for day to day of like what did I actually get done, so I can reflect on how things are going. Okay, Finn, done. I want to make sure we have time for demos, so I'm gonna quickly just talk about what you need to do and what I need to do. So Summer Shipping stuff. This is just from week one. A lot of this is review. Did you fill the interest form? If you're on this call, you almost certainly did. Did you fill the intake form? Like less than half of you have from the interest form. So do that. I'm gonna send up follow-up emails this week if you haven't, but that's the one for like your project information. So make sure to do the intake form as well. Are you on the Discord? I hope so. Again, you're on this call, so I assume so. Are you on Twitter? Hopefully. Are you on our Twitter list? Do you know about the Google Calendar? Hopefully. Are you aware of summershipping.com and the projects tab? Hopefully. So those are all like background logistics things. And then some stuff I want to do, you to do this week. If you haven't already, post an intro on the intros channel on Discord, and then add your project under the ideas channel. When the mentor stuff comes out, I hope you can schedule a project meeting with your mentor or have some sort of coffee chat. And then just same old, same old. Keep shipping daily, post on Twitter. Days off are totally chill. We talked about consistency. It doesn't mean shipping a massive feature every day. So please enjoy your weekends, take some breaks. And tell your friends if you summer shipping is more fun with good company. So if you know people and they're like bored this summer and they want to work on something cool, this would be a good place for them to come to. I'll just shout out those Discord channels while I have you all on the call. So intros is in general, and a few people have been so lovely and they posted these really nice intros. And I would love to see more of you guys do this. Just so you can connect with each other and find people with similar interests. There's me. And then ideas, again, you can add, look at that, 35 minutes ago, bam, so awesome. You can put your project on here and you'll connect with a mentor. You'll connect with other summer of shippers, people. I need a name for that. Who are working on cool projects. And so yeah, do it. Otherwise, I won't know you're working on. Okay, so that's to dos for you. I'm not going to pause because I'm taking too much time, but go post your projects in the background while I'm yammering on. Again, the more you put into this, the more you get out of it. Take initiative, drive your project forward, get involved with the community, because this is a very like choose your own adventure kind of summer. My focuses this week are going to be building some more connection within Summer of Shipping. So getting you connected with mentors, getting you connected with each other, and taking more coffee chats with you guys. I had two this week and they were awesome. Shout out if you talk to me. But yeah, that's more the goal. I want to broaden engagement. So 420 people filled out the interest form, but only 181 on the intake form as of last night. So I want to follow up. I want to validate folks are actually like making it onto Discord and engaging Twitter list, and I want to snuff out lurkers. If people are lurking and they're not messaging on anything and they're just kind of like filling in the Discord, I want to help them like get something out of this summer, and then improve the website in the background. Okay, questions? Anyone? I'll check the chat now. Shippers. Shippers is like fine. I don't think it's that good of a term. Shameless plug. I have a bit of shame in plugging that. No mentioning Jira. Jira is the enemy. See, now I'll be shameless. Like, no, Jira sucks. At least like Todoist is like not bad. I'm trying to think what else I would use. Nah, just use Notion. Okay. It's also like free for students, and I assume basically all of you are students. Okay, no questions. Demos. Okay, so you can raise your hand on Zoom if you want a demo. Um, and I'll basically just do first come, first serve. I think screen sharing, I'll stop screen sharing. Be allowed. Yep. So yeah, once, but if you'd like to demo, let me know. I can demo. Okay, sweet. You're up first, Rodrigo. Feel free to unmute, share your screen, do whatever you need to do.
Okay. Can you see my face? Okay.
Yep. How you doing?
So mine's a mobile app. So I can't really share my screen. It doesn't work with the simulators because I need like Spotify to be installed on the phone. So if I just do this, I suppose.
Yep. Nice. That looks good.
All right. Good?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay.
Wait, this is so sick. What? No
So
way.
it's just like a carpool app. So here I'm going to sign in. And then I'm going to create a party. Let's just call it test.
Sure.
And then you can see we have like statistics, like how many listeners we have and stuff like that. So if you want to join the party, you just click on join and you type in the party name. And then you can kind of see the listeners go up. But the coolest thing about this is that, you know, if you're in a long car ride and you want to change the song or add a song, you usually have to like pass the phone around. That's kind of what this aims to solve. But as you can see, I can skip the song from here.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so multiple people can be in a party, and the cool thing about this is only one person needs Spotify Premium as well. So it kind of gets over that. So if you have friends that use Apple Music, it doesn't really matter. And then they can also request songs. So that looks terrible. That's a UI bug. But for example, I don't know what song you'd want to listen to, just like a random one. And then it just pulls it up. And that's about it. It just lets you use multiple devices to control one Spotify player.
That's wicked. That's really cool. And I know like Spotify has a thing now where you can like join like a group listening thing, but I like you have like the skip rate and stuff. So if like people are playing whack music, you can like see how often songs they skip, which is cool. I think that's really fun.
The thing about that Spotify thing, I remember it, but I think you need premium.
That's right. You're totally right. You do need premium. Yeah.
With this one, only one person needs premium.
Yeah.
So
I gotta ask, how did you build it? Like, what did you use?
So I'm using. It's only available on iOS for now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it got rejected from the Apple Store, but
okay.
I need to fix the UI bugs.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to learn Swift. So most of my experience is like in web development and React Native. So most of the apps that I've built are in React Native. So I just wanted to learn something native because I hate React Native, how it interfaces with like native interfaces for like notifications.
Right.
React Native it feels very hacky. So whenever I switched to Swift, I really liked it. So this is just a project for me to just learn Swift UI.
Right.
Um, and
Well,
yeah,
I was gonna say crazy progress so far. I think it's pretty wicked. Good
thank
luck
you.
getting on the App Store. I know that can be a bit painful, but like hopefully pretty soon.
Yeah, but it's just using Firebase. If anyone
Right.
was wondering, and Firebase does like most of the heavy lifting for you. So
How does the like skipping thing work? Like on the one phone, you don't have premium, you press skip. How does it fire the event on the other phone?
yeah, so everybody connects to Firebase, and then whenever you join, you start listening to the Firebase document, and Firebase is just real time by default.
Right.
So on the host device, I have a flag that says if you're the host. Every time the Firebase document updates, I have a skip count, and then you have the listeners count. So if that ever reaches a certain threshold, so right now I have it at 45%. So 45% of users press the skip button, it increments the skip count, and then the host says, okay, it's now above 45%. So now the host through the Spotify iOS SDK just skips the song, and that's it.
Super smart. Super, super smart. Okay, well, I'm excited to see where this goes. Congrats. That's good work.
Thank you.
All right, Nayan, do you want to go next?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Just want to
audio's good.
confirm. Okay, so I don't really have some crazy progress, but yeah, this would be my progress. It's already been deployed, but it's under construction. I just wanted to be on the internet while I was doing it, so like everyone can actually like view it and everything. I have built this using Next, kind of using the MERN stack. So like you could do anything for now. I haven't really connected it with a database yet. Something on the to-do list for me. And yeah, just the UI for now.
I
I
was gonna
spent
say I
like
tried this
2 days.
yesterday, and the UI is so nice. Like that when you click subscribe, I was like, damn, that is fire.
It took me 2 days. I really appreciate it. I
It was a
actually
worthwhile
referred to
two
a lot
days.
of articles online. So yeah.
Really good stuff. So what's next? You're gonna work on the database stuff?
Yeah. But like this, well, the thing is, this isn't exactly my main idea. Like where I want to take this is like have a newsletter for like international student as like I'm an international student in Canada.
Mhm.
Um, so like what I have noticed is like people don't really stay up to date with the news, at least with the immigration news and stuff. Like I have seen people, even my friends who aren't really updated with that information, and lately they have been updating a lot of things here. And like I was like, it's really important to know all that stuff. You just can't skip on it. Like you are an international students, rules change. You might even have to, I don't know, go back home, I
Right.
guess. But yeah, so like this newsletter would just help them get that news. But the twist here would be to automate the thing. So it gathers the news from the internet and edits it by itself. Probably just going to use ChatGPT or something like AI's API or something here, or Olama. Not sure, still haven't decided there. But something like that. So it's all automated. I don't really have to do it all by myself. I'm going to have like an accept or deny kind of thing, so I don't get sued or anything for any of the news if anything isn't really true.
Right. Cool.
But yeah, that's like my goal with this. Progress is pretty slow, but eventually it will reach
No,
there.
looks good. It's a good idea. I also say like sick name. I think Northern Whisper for this is like a really cool name.
Thanks.
Somebody asked in the chat, are you gonna do some personalized news or news in general? I think the news isn't personalized, right? It's just like generally about like immigration related stuff for international students.
I'm hoping to make it just like to the point. Like I don't really want to have like a lot of things there, and like once in a month kind of thing. So it just like stays on the dot with all the things. but I haven't really decided that. I would really appreciate if someone actually like has some ideas on it and wants to reach out for this, but like I still haven't really decided a lot of things here. It's
I think there are a decent amount of international students too in like the Discord. So you might want to post and see who's lurking.
sure I would probably later today. Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else? Got time for like at least a couple more. Again, doesn't have to be too polished at all. The goal was Hello World. If you have Hello World, I'll be very happy. Sweet. Yeah, Michael, feel free.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just uh trying to figure out how to share the screen. Am I sharing the screen now?
Yep, looks good. Yep, we can see your window.
Okay. So just for some context, I'm also an international student and I went to school. I grew up in Taiwan and I remember that in high school, because like English is my second language and also for
Mm.
my high school students, like classmates. So me and my friends, we would use flashcard apps like Anki or Quizlet to just create flashcard for English vocabularies because we're being tested on the vocabularies and we want to like memorize them. And then so after the diffusion model came out, I just like I think it would be cool to just create flashcards with not only the word but also like with an image next to the vocabulary. So it can probably like help me associate the words with its meaning. So I just create this. It's like a simple web app, and yeah, I can like add a word, and then it calls like OpenAI's API, and also I use Replicate for diffusion model. Now it's loading right now, but in the end, it should create like, yeah, the image is kind of sucks because I probably need to improve the prompt, but the basic idea is to create a vocabulary flashcard with image.
That's
That's
cool. That's really cool. I like it a lot. And I guess it's kind of tough. Like, what is an image of like a demo? It's kind of hard to say. But like the sandwich one is really good. Like, I could see this being super helpful for helping it like stick.
yeah, the sandwich one is pretty nice.
Yeah, this is awesome. What'd you use to make it? Like, what's the stack? I guess.
Um, I use Next.js for front end and like ShadCN for the UI components.
Right.
And for backend, I also use Next.js because I was trying to use Fast API, but I feel like deploying it's really like it's really like a pain in the ass. So if
Yeah.
I use Next.js, it's everything's deployed on Vercel, so it's just a lot quicker to prototype.
Yeah. No fair. It's super fast. I like anytime you try to deploy a like separate API service, not like on Vercel, you like what do you use? How do you use things? If you want to deploy like a fast API project, I can recommend Railway. They have like up to $5 per month and like their free hobby tier, which is like pretty hard to hit if you're only using your app occasionally. And it like scans your repo when you connect it via GitHub, and then we'll figure out how to deploy it. And it's usually like pretty good or only requires like very minimal configuration. So it's better than like AWS or something. And there's a few similar services that are like Railway. So if you do want to migrate off of Vercel, that's right.
Yeah, I'll check it.
What's next? Like, what are you gonna work on next?
I think I'll switch to other project because right now this kind of finished my goal to just like create a flashcard with an image. Maybe I'll try to learn Swift, and then yeah, release it as an app.
That's cool. Okay, well, good luck. Excited to see where it goes. Anybody else for a demo? Oh, wait, like another minute. and then I will call it for today. I love awkward silence. Yeah, sure, Nick. If you want to show, I'd be more than happy to see. I've seen your stuff on Twitter too. It's like the maze thing, right? I think.
Yes, I've been working on the maze project. So kind of funny. After looking at the presentation that you put on, which is very nice, mine is definitely a project that is looking for problems to solve, not solving a current problem.
I mean,
But
it's fine if it's personal. It's fine if it's personal.
yeah, in that sense. So let me see here. Right now, I only have two large components done. I'm currently I'm a little different of a situation too. I'm not a computer science student. I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree a couple of years ago. Right now, I'm in a data science program, so I'm looking to transition into the machine learning data science world. So I'm kind of trying to find a project that fits a little bit of that.
Right.
So right now, I have, let me see here. I have a Python script that generates a maze. Does a quick prompt, and I can get the program here too. So right now I'm generating a maze using a depth first search algorithm. Going through, and the idea is that I'm randomly assigning each node a value so that when the depth first search algorithm goes through, it sorts based on that random value to generate a randomized maze. So if we go in here, I can generate a maze that is 5 units and no seed. And if we do the same thing again, seed, you can see that we have different positions, hopefully, ideally. This is a little different, actually. I changed this right down here. Is what we're looking at. And it looks like I changed something and it's not working now. So forget what I said. Not good.
Classic story of a demo. Don't worry.
Yeah, actually. The other side of it was the image generation. If I come in here and I can make, right now I'm just making the blank maze sets. Now I need to go through and actually, if these nodes are neighbors and you jump from one node to the next node, it needs to basically remove the wall in between those to make the image of the maze. Ideally, I'm going to make this a data set, make a Kaggle data set for it. And then I think I'm going to do some like image recognition stuff with warping the image and seeing if I can have a model detect if the image is warped or not, and basically go from there. That's kind of the current state of the project. If you look on my Twitter, I do have this working, so I just changed it briefly. When I went to go do the image generation, I was generating test paths just so I have something solid to work off of. So I probably changed something there and made the same solid path. But yeah, that's my current project. If you have any ideas or different places I can go with this, feel free to reach out. Let me know. I had a couple people discuss different possibilities of where this could go, and it's all really exciting stuff. So that's the current project. I think it would be cool if eventually I could see if I think the baseline originally was to see if I could get an algorithm that would create a solved maze, have an image and then output a picture of the maze solved and compare that to like a normal search algorithm. But I'm not really sure about how effective that would be. So that is essentially, yeah, the micromap stuff is awesome. That stuff's a real influence for sure. So yeah.
Very cool. I will say, if you're doing like data science ML stuff, it's really smart if you generate your own data, because one of the biggest blockers will be just like not having a good data set. So if you like take images and like warp them and then try to detect, if you're like doing that yourself, very smart. It'll make it like way more fun and easy to develop. So
Yeah,
good
that's
luck.
the
It
idea.
looks cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's about 6:15, and I think that will wrap us up for this week. Thank you all so much for sticking around. And yeah, I hope to see you all next week. Scheduling follow-up things will all come via Discord. Make sure you're on there, do the to-dos, keep tweeting, doing all the stuff. Otherwise, yeah, have a lovely weekend. See you next week.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Of course, see you.